Yeah, we're doing the transmission fluid change on this Chevy Silverado. Okay guys, so this is 2015 Chevy Silverado 6L80 and with a 5.3 engine. We're about to drop the pan, do a filter change and a fluid change. This is the synthetic Dextron 6 fluid we're gonna use. And this is the filter. That's the part number, I believe. And of course it looks like this, but we'll get into that in a second. Let me get under here and try to get an angle. And we're gonna drop this pan and I'll give give my thoughts on a couple things when we get under there. We're also gonna be doing this, the stickers covering part of it, but this bypass kit for the transmission, I guess it's like a thermostat pretty much. So we're gonna be doing this too, but it's gonna be in a different video, just for people interested in that. So y'all can look for that one. There is the transmission pan. And I have a couple questions for GM. Like, first off, why is there not a drain plug? Even like I had an 09 2500 HD, you know, Duramax and Allison transmission, it had a drain plug. So that's like the easiest thing to do is put a drain plug so you can drain it out and not dump a bunch of fluid everywhere when you take the pan off. But second off, what the flip is the deal with the exhaust running on here? It makes it harder to get out. We're gonna try to spin it to get it out. We'll get into that. I'll see how that works out. But yeah, why? And also, for the purposes of heat, these transmissions don't like heat, which is why I'm also doing a bypass change here. But why? Of course, when you're going down the road at highway speeds, the wind's probably taking most of the heat away, but still, it's crazy, dude. But anyway, let's get my pan under here, get these bolts off, try to drain as much of this in the pan. I already know I'm about to be using some oil dry to get fluid off of this floor, but yeah, let's get started. So I'm gonna set my phone stand up under here, but it's just a hair too tall to fit. So y'all bear with me, I'm gonna have to hold my phone to record. But these bolts are 10, I don't know if you can see, they're 10 millimeter. So let me get all them off. I have a jack stand under here just to support that, so I can get these last couple bolts on each end off and just try to let it down and tilt it to drain as much as possible in this pan here. You can see there the fluid, it's pretty dirty. It does have one change on it, and I'll give you my thoughts on the rest of that. But let me get this last few. There's two here, and there's I think two on that end I got left, and I'm gonna try to get this out without making a huge giant mess. So I got all the bolts out, and the mess is made, of course. But what I'm trying to do, because this exhaust, I'm trying to spin the top of the pan this way and kind of twist it out and drop it down. But for some reason, and it's working fine if you kind of slide the bottom all the way to the passenger side and then start bringing it and try to come out, but it's hanging on something. So I'm about to get my light up there and see what it is. I may can take a pry bar, put on the bottom of this brace and pry on this exhaust just a hair to get that to slide on over here, but I gotta see what's hanging on it first. GM, oh my gosh, this would have been so much easier, 10 times easier if you hadn't done this crap right here. Like, I don't know. I got the pan out. It's been a freaking pain. I tried it, and I'll go into what I did in just a second. I'm kind of running out of time. Let me, as you can see here, it's pretty dirty. And the mess I made under here, hold on, let me dump this out. The fluid itself is pretty dirty, but the pan is pretty clean. And you can see here on the magnet deal, it's just got a little bit on there, but it's not terrible, no chunks or nothing. So that's a good sign. That's the old gasket. And here's the new gasket if you want. That's the GM part number right there. If you want that. Clean the pan with some brake clean and the magnet too, and wipe it off good. It just had some film, you know, just from normal wear, and just a little bit of, you know, like sludge stuff on here from, again, normal wear. And that goes right there. It really only goes one way, and it's got these little studs, little locating pins things here that go down. I mean, it's got it on both sides, but because of the shape here, you're not really gonna put it but one way. And then these little locating pins, and one up here at the top. So you may or may not be supposed to do it, but I just took my finger, kind of like when you do oil change with your filter and just rub a little bit of oil around the seal. I just dipped my finger in some transmission fluid and just kind of rubbed on both sides so it's not dry. I mean, it may or may not help the seal better, but that's just what I did. So if you see here, this corner of the transmission right here where my finger's at, the only reason you cannot just twist the pan, put the thin side toward the converter over here and twist the big side out is because it catches on that. So you have to put a 2x4 under there, ratchet strap around the exhaust, pull the exhaust down just a little bit, which I don't like doing because it kind of puts a bind up there on where bolts to the manifolds, but I also don't want to have to fool pulling them out. And you can't, I tried to pull the bolts out of the cross member here and jack up, but guess what? There's something above this bracket has a top on it to where you can't push it up unless you unbolt where it bolts below the transfer case here. So you can't jack the transmission up. You could leave this in place, unbolt it, and jack the transmission up, but that's a pain to get to. So it's got a flexible thing there on the exhaust. So it flexes a little bit. Now really you just kind of have to flex, put the upper side up here in a bind, which I don't like, but I really didn't have a choice. So I'm gonna clean this surface off and get the gasket put on there. The filter here, this black thing, it's the filter. Just pull it straight down, there's a little like adapter in there. Pull it out, put the new one up, press the new one up in there, and then press the filter up in it. It's just like a press fit. Then put the pan on, torque it down. I'll give you the torque spec in a minute. It ain't much. So that's the filter spout, and that's the piece I was talking about, the seal. It presses up in there, and then that press fit in that. So there's the seal there. Ahead of time, I stuck a screwdriver in this side over here and tried to pry it over a little bit so I could grab it with some needle nose pliers. And I already done got aggravated. I had to go to work, so I just left it. It was coming back today. Well, Dad comes down here and just looks at it and does the same thing I did, pries it over a little bit, then took his little pocket screwdriver he carries around and stuck behind it and popped it right out. So but he's always been like that. He could do the same thing I do and then make it work because he's just got the magic hands. But anyway, and then he just drove the seal in there. You can take a socket, flip it over backwards with the drive side towards the seal and just stick a extension up in there and tap it in. He just tapped all the way around the edge of it with a socket. Extension to the guy that drove in. But anyway, there's that. I'll rub a little bit of fluid around the seal there just to lubricate it up, and I'll put this other filter back in. I wiped it off a little bit here already on the flange. I'm gonna wipe it off one more and wipe off some of this fluid like on the exhaust here, and I'll try to get to, because it's easier to get to with that pan off. So I'm gonna try to do that real quick before I put the pan off, filter and pan back on there. So the new filter goes in like that. Obviously the spout is right there toward the front and then the body of it toward the back. Now when you get it, you can start walking it kind of up in there. I pushed it up straight just to kind of get it started, then walked it in there, and you'll feel it bottom out. And when it does, if you can see, there's a, I don't know if I can get it where I can see. You see that little plastic ear right there? It'll bottom set up against, right behind that bolt there. It's a plastic, basically, ear tab, whatever you want to call it, made onto the filter. It's got it's got the hole in it. It'll bottom out up against the transmission in there. It's blurry, I know you can't see, but it'll bottom out up in there by that bolt. And it's all the way in there. Now to get this pan, my dumb self, I started to put it back in there, and then I realized, oh wait, I forgot to put the filter in there. So I had to take it back out. But you'll want to work, you want to start the pan in there kind of like at this angle. Say if the transmission's running straight, you want to start it in there at this angle and then work up in there and twist it straight. Got the pan back in there, and to do that I had to work it, but after that you can put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Anyway, so these bolts, they're like 1/4 inch diameter or whatever metric equivalent, and the torque specs on these are 80 inch-pounds. So this is the torque wrench I use. It's a Tecton. And for anybody, DIY, whatever, you're not professional, this is a good torque wrench for the money. And this is my 1/4 inch drive. I do anything pretty much up to 10 foot-pounds with it. And I have a 1/2-inch drive, just like it. I go from 10 up higher. I don't have a 3/8 drive because it kind of splits the difference, which I probably should get one. Inch pound. Some people say pound feet or whatever, but right here on the wrench, it'll say inch pounds or foot pounds. So that's why I say it like that. And then on the back here, it's got Newton meters. 80 inch pounds is 9 Newton meters. So if you look at that chart and it said 9 Newton meters, that would be 80 inch pounds. So I know it's hard to see on here, but the torque spec, like I said, 80 inch pounds. I'm gonna do 40 first, and then go up to 80 just to make sure it's evenly torqued, so less likely to leak. But the sequence is, there's 18 bolts in all. I don't know if I mentioned that, but the sequence, you know, start in the middle, it's like a cross pattern. So here, 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 you know, and you can go here and then cross, just crisscross back and forth. And then when you get to the end, same thing there, and then cross, you know, pattern, kind of like you would a tire, you know, if you're doing your low torque, like the star pattern. But this is a little different because you're jumping back and forth kind of in that pattern. But all right, we're all torqued down to 80 inch pounds, and I got my block and my strap out from under here. But it's kind of aggravating to get to those bolts right there and loosen down. If they even loosen up, you know, they've just been sitting there hot on the exhaust usually, and it's cold. Usually I like to at least, I'm gonna break loose exhaust bolts. I'm gonna do it while it's warm. You know, when I first shut it off, break them loose and let them cool off before I finish taking them off. But it was already cold, so I didn't want to try that and end up breaking something off. But anyway, so we're gonna top it off with fluid. I'm about to do the bypass here. It's gonna be a separate video, so y'all can check that out. So let's get up there and top it off with fluid. So we I put 6 quarts of transmission fluid in there. It said 6 for a pan drop. I may have to add a little bit, but we're gonna check it and see.
Right on the cold.
All right, well, we'll run it like that and see. So we're taking it for a drive. You can see there transmission temp's 82. And it's shifting good. It was shifting fine before, shifting fine now. Of course, I did the pan drop just to change the filter out, but what I'll do, I have a pump. You know, I can run a hose down in the dipstick tube and pump out what's in the pan and then pour some more clean fluid in it. That's what I'm gonna do, just run it for a while and then do that a couple times maybe, just to get even more, you know, cleaner fluid in there. But you can't do that, you know, and you can't, to change the filter, obviously you gotta drop the pan. So anyway, I would do that instead of doing a full-on flush. Now the 6 quarts, just the pan drop it did, when we checked it, it was right at the cold mark. And then, you know, I'm gonna run it now and get it up to temp and then check the hot mark. It should be good to go though. Make sure everything's, you know, make sure nothing's leaking, make sure it's all topped off and everything's good to go. And I may, when I pump that fluid out, I'll do another video on that, just for that, to mention what tools I use. But so that's gonna wrap up this video for the transmission fluid.